This is a press conference to talk about a recent death investigation that the New Hartford Police Department and the New York State Police are investigating. I would like to introduce the people that are standing behind me. Major Francis Coots of the New York State Police, District Attorney Scott McNamara from Oneida County, and Chief Mark Williams from Utica PD. I want to let you know what's going to happen here. I'm going to read a prepared statement, and then we'll open up the conference to some questions. Before I read the statement, I'd like to recognize the assistance provided to the New Hartford Police Department during the investigation by the New York State Police, Utica Police, Rome PD, and the District Attorney's Office. Major Coots provided numerous investigators, uniformed troopers, the Forensics Identification Unit, and SWAT members. Utica PD provided SWAT members and uniformed patrols. Rome PD also provided SWAT members, and the District Attorney's Office provided guidance on the legal aspects of this investigation. A press release was issued yesterday. If any organization needs a copy, feel free to take one from the table. I believe it's outside this room. If you'd like a photo of the subjects arrested during the course of this investigation, again, there's a list outside this room. Put down your name, your organization, and your email address, and we will send those photos out to you. This is a complex and ongoing investigation. Upon the completion of the investigation, members of law enforcement will meet with the District Attorney's Office to discuss additional charges and/or arrests. As a result of a joint investigation by the New Hartford Police Department and New York State Police, 6 individuals were arrested. 2 subjects were charged with manslaughter in the first degree, and 4 additional subjects were charged with assault in the second degree. We were called to St. Luke's Hospital on Monday, October 12th at about 12:30 p.m. for a reported gunshot victim. He had been brought to the hospital in a private vehicle by members of his own family. Lucas Leonard, the victim, was pronounced dead at the hospital shortly after his arrival. After initial interviews were conducted with the family members who transported Leonard to the hospital, 2 possible crime scenes were identified. The first scene was at the Word of Life Christian Church, located at 3354 Oneida Street in the town of Hartford. The second scene was a residence located at 2347 Main Street in Clayville in the town of Paris. Once determined that the crime scene could be in 2 different locations, 2 different townships, the New York State Police were requested to respond to the hospital so a joint investigation could begin. As the investigation progressed, it was determined that the Word of Life Church was the scene of the crime, and a search warrant was obtained for that location. The New York State Police SORT team, the Metro team, consisting of Utica and New Hartford SWAT officers, along with members of the Rome SWAT team, secured the church ground and eventually made a tactical entry into the church building without incident. Members of the New York State Police Forensic Identification Unit and the Hartford Forensic Unit processed the scene. Several church members were interviewed from Sunday afternoon into the early morning hours of from Monday afternoon into the early morning hours of Tuesday. Several children were removed from the church during this investigation and turned over to the United County Child Protective Services Unit. The victim, Leonard, sustained apparent blunt force trauma to his torso and extremities during the assault. An autopsy was conducted at the Onondaga County Medical Examiner's Office. Multiple contusions of the torso and extremities were noted. It was determined that the combination of injuries and the duration of the assault contributed to his death. However, the cause and manner of death are pending further examination. The initial reports of a gunshot wound are unfounded. During the course of the investigation, a second male victim, Christopher Leonard, age 17, the brother of Lucas, was located. Christopher is currently in serious condition in a hospital suffering injuries caused by blunt force trauma during an assault. During the course of numerous interviews with members of the church, it was additionally learned that after church services ended Sunday night, the church held a counseling session for Lucas and his family. It was explained to us that a counseling session is when a pastor or someone from the church would sit down with a member of the church to discuss their spiritual state. These sessions are held in a sanctuary room. During the counseling session involving Lucas Leonard and his brother Christopher, the session turned physical. Both brothers were continually subjected to physical punishment over the course of several hours in the hopes that each would confess the prior sins and ask for forgiveness. On Monday morning, later morning, members of the church noticed that Lucas wasn't breathing, and he was transported to St. Luke's Hospital for treatment. As a result of this investigation, the following church members were arrested and charged with the indicated crimes. Bruce Leonard, age 65, the father of the victim Lucas, charged with 1 count of manslaughter and a first degree. Deborah Leonard, the mother of the victim Lucas Leonard, age 59, residing 2347 Main Street, Clayville, was charged with 1 count of manslaughter and a first degree. Joseph Irwin, age 26, residing at 3354 Oneida Street, the location of the church, was charged with 1 count of assault and a second degree for injuries caused to Christopher. Same goes for David Morey and Linda Morey. Their pedigree information is on that release that's on the table. Sir Ferguson was the last person arrested in regards to the assault on Christopher. Again, she was charged with 1 count of assault and a second degree. All 6 defendants were arraigned in this courtroom and remanded to the United County Jail. There is a felony exam scheduled for this Friday. Again, we're asking the public to contact the New Hartford Police Department at 724-7111 if they have any information that may assist this investigation. Again, it is part of the investigation. We have not determined what this punishment was for at this point.
Do you know how many people participated in the beatings?
At least 6.
At least 6.
We've arrested 6.
Was there a relationship between the other people who were arrested and the victims? Aside from the parents, we're told that one of them may have been a sister.
One of them is, the last name I read, Sarah Ferguson, is a sister of the victims.
The counseling session turning physical, was that, have you been able to determine if that was routine practice?
Not to my knowledge.
Any other gunshot wound? Is that the story they made up to the hospital?
That is the report that the hospital made to the 911 center. There was a wound on the lower extremity that the hospital interpreted could possibly have been a gunshot wound. It was not.
You had blunt force trauma to the torso, to the other extremities. What was used to beat this young man to death?
It's part of the investigation right now, but it was blunt force. We know that there was fists and feet involved.
Any other types of objects that were used, or was it just...
At this point, we're still looking into that.
This particular session?
I do not know.
What were the living conditions there? You were investigating it. You said there's some people that live there. Did they take care of the place? Was it kind of in shambles when you walked in? What were the living conditions?
You know, when we applied for the search warrant was limited in scope to the area where the crime occurred, which was the sanctuary, and the sanctuary was not in disarray.
You said that there were children taken. What were the ages of the children who were taken out of the residence?
Approximately 2 to 15.
Were they hurt at all or injured when they were taken out? Were they at all? Yeah.
No.
Do we know how many kids? How many kids were taken?
I believe 7.
Are they just from that family, or is it all the kids that
I
were just...
believe 4 of the children are one of the suspects, Sarah Ferguson. The other 3 are other people not related to the crime.
Did you shut down the church?
We have not.
Is there any indication that this sort of discipline, these beatings were commonplace, that this has happened before?
This is the first that has come to my attention. Again, this investigation is ongoing, and we are delving into that particular topic right now, you know.
And where is the sanctuary vis-a-vis the front door of that building?
I did not respond to the scene. I want to tell you it's towards the back of the building.
Towards the front section?
I think it's off, actually, I don't know.
And you believe that?
Honestly, I don't know.
You believe that's where the alleged
There's
crime took
a
place?
lot of unknowns in the beginning of this investigation. We had two different spots where this crime could have occurred. The information that we're getting on us from the family members was sketchy, and there wasn't much substance to it. We narrowed it down to residents and to the church. We didn't know what we were going to face. It was a large building. We knew that there was other adults inside. You know, it took us hours to find Christopher. Through the course of interviews, and that was one of our main concerns, Christopher's well-being. The family members, to be quite honest, were reluctant to share the information. Through some information from a couple of different church members, we realized that Christopher may have been injured in this counseling session too, and it took us quite a time to find Christopher.
Where'd you find him?
He was in the church.
He's in the church as well. Where specifically inside the church?
I believe Christopher was on the second floor of the church. However, through phone communication, we were eventually able to get him to come out of the church.
Was he hidden there? Was he in hiding?
He wasn't in hiding, but he wasn't making himself available, and the family members were not telling us where he was.
Was there any resistance from the church members when police approached?
No.
How many people do we think were living in the church?
If I had to put a number on it, less than 10. 3 stories. We knew that we had one subject that died due to the hands of numerous people, violent death over several hours. We had a second victim that suffered a serious assault also. It's only prudent that our officers use every precaution as possible.
Is there any indication?
Folks, we have time for 2 more questions.
Did they use weapons, or was this a beating with the hands?
At this point, we know there's blunt force trauma involved. The investigation is continuing to determine if there was any weapons.
Is there any indication there were any weapons at all?
Can't talk about any statements that they might have made. It's not saying that they made any. As to the difference between murder and why it's manslaughter, murder would be if somebody intentionally kills another person. So we would have to prove that their goal in the first place was to kill their son. And obviously that's not what we're alleging. Manslaughter is if you're trying to cause serious physical injury to somebody, trying to hurt them really bad, and then ultimately they die as a result of those injuries, that's a manslaughter. So that's what we're alleging at this point. We're not alleging that they intended to kill their son. We're just alleging they were trying to seriously hurt their son, and ultimately he died from those injuries.
Will more people be charged?
At this point, what we will do is continue the investigation. I can't emphasize enough what the chief said was if anybody has information to notify the New Hartford Police Department or the district attorney's office. And what we would then do is look at everything, present the case to a grand jury, and at that time I would anticipate additional charges and possibly other defendants being charged.